Desert Boy here. So I'm coming back to try to do this last part of the long guns. I don't know if you remember a couple weeks ago I did like part 1 and part 2, kind of going over starting out and some home defense and things like that. Talked a little bit about hunting, but let's talk a little more about where I'm at today and looking at hunting. I think I showed you back then for hunting, right? Or for long distance home defense, right? I have let me see if this is empty. There's no magazines in it. You know, it's all good. And what we established was that, this 270 was my choice of caliber for hunting. It has a lot of muzzle velocity. It shoots fairly flat, and got the nice Caldwell bipod on there and Niko-Stirling scope that came with it. So I made it, a good choice for me for hunting. It's got red and green reticle, or no color or light to it. So it's nice. 270 is a good round. Got magazines that I can detach for it. That's something that I used to, made an improvement to it, I guess. There was an improvement that was available for it. So where else did I go after that for hunting? Well, you've seen the 45-70, which is more of a defense against danger scheme kind of thing. But what I did next was I said, I'm going up to Montana, and I was buying that 357 that's very similar to this 44 Magnum Rossi R92. We can see this is empty. And this is 44 Magnum. And 44 Magnum can be used for hunting and also defense against dangerous game. And this has a 24-inch barrel. It's pretty reinforced. It's not, it's as far as being an octagon barrel versus a round one. And it's 12 rounds. I said, well, that will get me through, maybe if I don't want to carry the 45-70 and I want to have more rounds. And also could do some hunting with it. It's going to have enough power and range, but it's not going to be like the 270. It's going to be, more like back in the 100-yard range or so. And then I said, I found out there was another lever action possibly going to be available. And we'll just slide this down a minute here so we can show that this is empty too. And what is this? This, of course, is my Henry side gate loader. This is the newer model one. Some of the Henrys I have don't have the side gate, but this one does. 30-30. And 30-30 I think of as being the classic deer rifle, right? Just a beautiful rifle. And I've kept it around. I think I talked to you about I might get rid of it, but I've kept it and decided to keep it because that's just a classic round. But its range is really 100, 125, maybe 150 yards. So for me, that's probably the hunting I'm going to do. If I was to, I would have to make sure I'm feeling that I'm very confident with my 270, but, I could hunt up to elk with it, but probably more likely deer. And, I'm not one for me. If I remember, I'm sharing with you my thoughts, my journey, what happened with me. And I said, well, I'm not going to get into the, 300 Win Mag, 416 Rigby, 358 Lapua and all that, because, I'm just not that extreme of a hunter. Now, for those of you that are, I respect that a lot. And you know which rounds work best for you. You got different, some people, I know somebody that uses, I think it's a 270 Weatherby Magnum, which is pretty effective for them. And, and I know another person that uses a 257 Roberts, which is a lighter one, but they've taken elk with it. So just depends on where you're at, what your experience is, and what works for you. And I'm just sharing with you what works for me. So where am I at today with long guns? Well, excuse me, I have been thinking about getting another 22. I wouldn't mind. I think I was mentioning one earlier, getting maybe a little bolt action used one, from the 60s or 70s, little 7-shot mags that they have, kind of more like the Marlins or the Glenfields. Wouldn't mind having one of those. I'll probably pick up a 10-22 at some point. I have reconsidered thinking about, I wouldn't mind having an AR style weapon, and having the 5.56 223 caliber available. I've also had kind of an interest in examining, what's more called, well, some people think of as AR-10s, but usually you see Springfield, they have that scout rifle, or they also have the, what do they call that? I don't know if they call it the M1A1, but they have a pretty expensive one. It's a 308 essentially. It's the, I think, 7.62 by 51, if I remember right, what some people call AR-10s. Those have always interested me. I don't think I'll probably get one of those, but I might, because that's also a good hunting round. And then the other thing that more falls maybe back towards home defense and is usually can be used with subsonic and possibly suppression, just like the CZ Scorpion EVO 3S1 that I have in 9. But it's a rifle round. It's a 300 Blackout. I don't know as much about that. I'm going to study that a little more. So I usually go out and try to find out as much as I can about something, see if it would really work for me. But that would be more in a more classic, well, I say classic, but, more like a semi-automatic modern sporting rifle is what a lot of us call them nowadays. It's not what other people call them, but that's what a lot of people call them in the gun world, because they can be used for hunting, and but they're very effective for self-defense. So I'm probably not going to do AKs. It's not my thing. They're a little heavy, usually, and I'm trying to find something that's a little more comfortable. I was looking online at HK. I was looking at some semi-auto pistols the other day, and boy, I saw an MP5 in there, and I was like, boy, I would really like to have one of those. But, $3,700, way, 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 way out of my price range. So I'll have to be happy with my CZ in that area. So for long guns, I think that's it for me. I saw an interesting 30-06, I like unusual guns, as you know, historical ones, was a pump 30-06, and it was a little pricey, but it was very interesting looking. I hadn't seen one of those, so, but that was probably the only thing I would get is maybe a 30-06, because I feel like I was a little more confident with that, maybe, or possibly the 308, but 30-06 for sure, as a round for something like elk or something bigger. So anyway, so that was my thoughts on long guns. Once again, I kind of like having like the 44 mag or the 45 Colt or the 357 in the lever actions, because they match up with my handguns. Some of the, like the CZ EVO Scorpions 9mm matches up with my handguns. But sometimes a rifle is a rifle, and you need a rifle round. You need the extra power that it provides. You need the barrel length, because you need the velocity and the range. If you want to get out to, 500-600 yards or farther, 1,000 yards, then you have to really get into some specialized, like competition type rifles. I'd have the heavier barrels and all that. Everybody has to kind of seek out what they find to work best for them. But for my walk, maybe a 10-22, like I said, a classic bolt action 22, maybe an AR at some point, or at least a bolt action 5.56 because it'd be a shame not to have a gun that can shoot that ammo in an extreme scenario, because you're going to run across a lot of it, at some point if you were in the it hits the fan scenario. So anyway, that's kind of my thoughts. This part 3 is the last part of it. So I it's not that I don't like shooting long guns. I enjoy it for the target part of it. But I really actually enjoy a lot of things to do with handguns. This weekend, I'm going to go to a kind of a black powder, not black powder, but a Cowboy Action Shooting intro. And we'll see where that goes from there. That might force me into buying a shotgun, because I will need either the old 1897 or a double barrel, like a Stoeger or something like that, or some other shotgun. And I'll have to pick me up another 45 Colt that's more appropriate, because I have one. I have the Vaquero, but I probably need something like an Uberti. And this time I want the old, Type 1, 4-click one, if I pick up something like that. So Reed Desert Boy always says, be safe out there, whatever you're doing. Bye now.